Chapter 6. The Lord said to Moses,
Give Aaron and his sons the following command. This is the ritual for holocausts. The holocaust is to remain on the hearth of the altar all night until the next morning, and the fire is to be kept burning on the altar. The priest, clothed in his linen robe and wearing linen drawers on his body, shall take away the ashes to which the fire has reduced the holocaust on the altar, and lay them at the side of the altar. Then, having taken off these garments and put on other garments, he shall carry the ashes to a clean place outside the camp. The fire on the altar is to be kept burning. It must not go out. Every morning the priest shall put firewood on it. On this he shall lay on the holocaust and burn the fat of the peace offering. The fire is to be kept burning continuously on the altar. It must not go out. This is the ritual of the cereal offering. One of Aaron's sons shall first present it before the Lord in front of the altar. Then he shall take from it a handful of its fine flour and oil, together with all the frankincense that is on it, and this he shall burn on the altar as its token offering, a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. The rest of it Aaron and his sons may eat, but it must be eaten in the form of unleavened cakes, and in a sacred place, in the court of the meeting tent they shall eat it. It shall not be baked with leaven. I have given it to them as their portion from the oblations of the Lord. It is most sacred, like the sin offering and the guilt offering. All the male descendants of Aaron may partake of it as their rightful share in the oblations of the Lord perpetually throughout your generations. Whatever touches the oblations becomes sacred.
The Lord said to Moses,
This is the offering that Aaron and his sons shall present to the Lord on the day he is anointed. 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour for the established cereal offering, half in the morning and half in the evening. It shall be well netted and fried in oil on a griddle. When you bring it in, having broken the offering into pieces, you shall present it as a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. Aaron's descendants, who succeeds him as the anointed priest, shall do likewise. This is a perpetual ordinance for the Lord. The whole offering shall be burned. Every cereal offering of a priest shall be a whole burnt offering. It may not be eaten.
The Lord said to Moses,
Tell Aaron and his sons, this is the ritual for sin offerings. At the place where holocausts are slaughtered, there also before the Lord shall the sin offering be slaughtered. It is most sacred. The priest who presents the sin offering may partake of it, but it must be eaten in a sacred place, in the court of the meeting tent. Whatever touches its flesh shall become sacred. If any of its blood is spilled on a garment, the stained part must be washed in a sacred place. A clay vessel in which it has been cooked shall thereafter be broken. If it is cooked in a bronze vessel, this shall be scoured afterward and rinsed with water. All the males of the priestly line may partake of the sin offering, since it is most sacred, but no one may partake of any sin offering of which some blood has been brought into the meeting tent. To make atonement in the sanctuary, such an offering must be burned up in the fire.
Chapter 7.
This is the ritual for guilt offerings, which are most sacred. At the place where the holocausts are slaughtered, there also shall the guilt offering be slaughtered. Its blood shall be splashed on the sides of the altar. All of its fat shall be taken from it and offered up. The fatty tail, the fatty membrane over the inner organs, as well as the 2 kidneys, with the fat on them near the loins, and the lobe of the liver, which must be severed above the kidneys. All this the priest shall burn on the altar as an oblation to the Lord. This is the guilt offering. All the males of the priestly line may partake of it, but it must be eaten in a sacred place, since it is most sacred. Because the sin offering and the guilt offering are alike, both having the same ritual, present, whereas all cereal offerings that are offered up dry or mixed with oil shall belong to all of Aaron's sons without distinction. This is the ritual for the peace offerings that are presented to the Lord when anyone makes a peace offering in thanksgiving. Together with his thanksgiving sacrifice, he shall offer unleavened cakes mixed with oil, unleavened wafers spread with oil, and cakes made of fine flour mixed with oil and well kneaded. His offering shall also include loaves of leavened bread, along with the victim of his peace offering for thanksgiving. From each of his offerings he shall present one portion as a contribution to the Lord. This shall belong to the priest who splashes the blood of the peace offering. The flesh of the thanksgiving sacrifice shall be eaten on the day it is offered. None of it may be kept till the next day. However, if the sacrifice is a votive or a free will offering, it shall indeed be eaten on the day the sacrifice is offered, but what is left over may be eaten on the next day. Should any flesh from the sacrifice be left over on the third day, it must be burned up in the fire. If therefore any of the flesh of the peace offering is eaten on the third day, it shall not win favor for him, nor shall it be reckoned to his credit. Rather, it shall be considered a refuse, and anyone who eats of it shall have his guilt to bear. Should the flesh touch anything unclean, it may not be eaten, but shall be burned up in the fire. All who are clean may partake of this flesh. If, however, someone while in a state of uncleanness eats any of the flesh of a peace offering belonging to the Lord, that person shall be cut off from his people. Likewise, if someone touches anything unclean, whether the uncleanness be of human or of animal origin, or from some loathsome crawling creature, and then eats of a peace offering belonging to the Lord, that person too shall be cut off from his people.
The Lord said to Moses,
Tell the Israelites, you shall not eat the fat of any ox or sheep or goat, although the fat of an animal that has died a natural death or has been killed by wild beasts may be put to any other use. You may not eat it. If anyone eats the fat of an animal from which an oblation is made to the Lord, such a one shall be cut off from his people. Wherever you dwell, you shall not partake of any blood, be it of bird or of animal. Every person who partakes of any blood shall be cut off from his people.
The Lord said to Moses,
Tell the Israelites, he who presents a peace offering to the Lord shall bring a part of it as his special offering to him, carrying in with his own hands the oblations to the Lord. The fat is to be brought in, together with the breast, which is to be waved as a wave offering before the Lord. The priest shall burn the fat on the altar, but the breast belongs to Aaron and his sons. Moreover, from your peace offering you shall give to the priest the right leg as a raised offering. The descendant of Aaron who offers up the blood and fat of the peace offering shall have the right leg as his portion. For from the peace offerings of the Israelites I have taken the breast that is waved and the leg that is raised up, and I have given them to Aaron, the priest, and to his sons by a perpetual ordinance, as a contribution from the Israelites.
This is the priestly share from the oblations of the Lord, allotted to Aaron and his sons on the day he called them to be the priests of the Lord. On the day he anointed them, the Lord ordered the Israelites to give them this share by a perpetual ordinance throughout their generations. This is the ritual for holocausts, cereal offerings, sin offerings, guilt offerings, ordination offerings, and peace offerings, which the Lord enjoined on Moses at Mount Sinai at the time when he commanded the Israelites in the wilderness of Sinai to bring their offerings to the Lord. Chapter 8. The Lord said to Moses,
Take Aaron and his sons together with the vestments, the anointing oil, the bullock for a sin offering, the 2 rams, and the basket of unleavened food. Then assemble the whole community at the entrance of the meeting tent.
And Moses did as the Lord had commanded. When the community had assembled at the entrance of the meeting tent, Moses told them what the Lord had ordered to be done. Bringing forward Aaron and his sons, he first washed them with water. Then he put the tunic on Aaron, girded him with the sash, clothed him with the robe, placed the ephod on him, and girded him with the embroidered belt of the ephod, fastening it around him. He then set the breastpiece on him, with the Urim and Thummim in it, and put the mitre on his head, attaching the gold plate, the sacred diadem over the front of the mitre, at his forehead, as the Lord commanded him to do. Taking the anointing oil, Moses anointed and consecrated the dwelling, with all that was in it. Then he sprinkled some of this oil 7 times on the altar, and anointed the altar with all its appurtenances, and the laver with its base, thus consecrating them. He then poured some of the anointing oil on Aaron's head, thus consecrating him. Moses likewise brought forward Aaron's sons, clothed them with tunics, girded them with sashes, and put turbans on them, as the Lord had commanded him to do. When he had brought forward the bullock for a sin offering, Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. Then Moses slaughtered it, and taking some of its blood, with his fingers, he put it on the horns around the altar, thus purifying the altar. Taking all the fat that was over the inner organs, as well as the lobe of the liver and the 2 kidneys with their fat, Moses burned them on the altar. The bullock, however, with its hide and flesh and offal, he burned in the fire outside the camp, as the Lord had commanded him to do. He next brought forward the Holocaust ram, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. When he had slaughtered it, Moses splashed its blood on all sides of the altar. After cutting up the ram into pieces, he burned the head, the cut-up pieces, and the suet. Then, having washed the inner organs and the shanks with water, he also burned these remaining parts of the ram on the altar as a holocaust, a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord, as the Lord had commanded him to do. Then he brought forward the second ram, the ordination ram, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. When he had slaughtered it, Moses took some of its blood and put it on the tip of Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Moses had the sons of Aaron also come forward, and he put some of the blood on the tips of their right ears, on the thumbs of their right hands, and on the big toes of their right feet. The rest of the blood he splashed on the sides of the altar. He then took the fat, the fatty tail, and all the fat over the inner organs, the lobe of the liver and the 2 kidneys, with their fat, and likewise the right leg. From the basket of unleavened food that was set before the Lord, he took 1 unleavened cake, 1 loaf of bread made with oil, and 1 wafer. These he placed on top of the portions of fat and the right leg. He then put all these things into the hands of Aaron and his sons, whom he had waved them as a wave offering before the Lord. When he had received them back, Moses burned them with the holocaust on the altar as the ordination offering, a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. He then took the breast and waved it as a wave offering before the Lord. This was Moses' own portion of the ordination ram. All this was in keeping with the Lord's command to Moses. Taking some of the anointing oil and some of the blood that was on the altar, Moses sprinkled with it Aaron and his vestments, as well as his sons and their vestments, thus consecrating both Aaron and his vestments and his sons and their vestments. Finally, Moses said to Aaron and his sons, "Boil the flesh at the entrance of the meeting tent, and there eat it with the bread that is in the basket of the ordination offering, in keeping with the command I have received. Aaron and his sons shall eat of it. What is left over of the flesh and the bread you shall burn up in the fire. Moreover, you are not to depart from the entrance of the meeting tent for 7 days, until the days of your ordination are completed, for your ordination is to last for 7 days. The Lord has commanded that what has been done today be done to make atonement for you. Hence, you must remain at the entrance of the meeting tent day and night for 7 days, carrying out the prescriptions of the Lord. Otherwise, you shall die, for this is the command I have received." So Aaron and his sons did all that the Lord had commanded through Moses. Chapter 9. On the 8th day, Moses summoned Aaron and his sons together with the elders of Israel, and said to Aaron, "Take a calf for a sin offering and a ram for a holocaust, without blemish, and offer them before the Lord. Tell the elders of Israel too, take a he-goat for a sin offering, a calf and a lamb, both unblemished yearlings for a holocaust, and an ox and a ram for a peace offering to sacrifice them before the Lord, along with a cereal offering mixed with oil, for today the Lord will reveal himself to you." So they brought what Moses had ordered. When the whole community had come forward and stood before the Lord, Moses said, "This is what the Lord orders you to do, that the glory of the Lord may be revealed to you. Come up to the altar." Moses then told Aaron, "And offer your sin offering and your holocaust in atonement for yourself and for your family. Then present the offering of the people in atonement for them, as the Lord has commanded." Going up to the altar, Aaron first slaughtered the calf that was his own sin offering. When his sons presented the blood to him, he dipped his finger in the blood and put it on the horns of the altar. The rest of the blood he poured out at the base of the altar. He then burned on the altar the fat, the kidneys, and the lobe of the liver that were taken from the sin offering, as the Lord had commanded Moses. But the flesh and the hide he burned up in the fire outside the camp. Then Aaron slaughtered his holocaust. When his sons brought him the blood, he splashed it on all sides of the altar. They then brought him the pieces and the head of the holocaust, and he burned them on the altar. Having washed the inner organs and the shanks, he burned these also with the holocaust on the altar. Thereupon he had the people's offering brought up. Taking the goat that was for the people's sin offering, he slaughtered it and offered it up for sin as before. Then he brought forward the holocaust, other than the morning holocaust, and offered it in the usual manner. He then presented the cereal offering. Taking a handful of it, he burned it on the altar. Finally, he slaughtered the ox and the ram, the peace offering of the people. When his sons brought him the blood, Aaron splashed it on all sides of the altar. The portions of fat from the ox and from the ram, the fatty tail, the fatty membrane over the inner organs, the 2 kidneys, with the fat that is on them, and the lobe of the liver, he placed on top of the breasts and burned them on the altar. Having first waved the breasts and the right legs as a wave offering before the Lord, in keeping with the Lord's command to Moses. Aaron then raised his hands over the people and blessed them. When he came down from offering the sin offering and holocaust and peace offering, Moses and Aaron went into the meeting tent. On coming out, they again blessed the people. Then the glory of the Lord was revealed to all the people. Fire came forth from the Lord's presence, and consumed the holocaust and the remnants of the fat on the altar. Seeing this, all the people cried out and fell prostrate. Chapter 10. During this time, Aaron's sons Nadab and Abihu took their censers, and strewing incense on the fire they had put in them, they offered up before the Lord profane fire, such as he had not authorized. Fire therefore came forth from the Lord's presence and consumed them, so that they died in his presence. Moses then said to Aaron, "This is as the Lord said, through those who approach me I will manifest my sacredness. In the sight of all the people I will reveal my glory." But Aaron said nothing. Then Moses summoned Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Aaron's uncle Uziel, with the order, "Come, remove your kinsmen from the sanctuary and carry them to a place outside the camp." So they went in and took them, in their tunics, outside the camp, as Moses had commanded. Moses said to Aaron and his sons Eleazar and Ithamar, "Do not bare your heads or tear your garments, lest you bring not only death on yourselves, but God's wrath also on the whole community. Your kinsmen, the rest of the house of Israel, shall mourn for those whom the Lord's fire has smitten. But do not you go beyond the entry of the meeting tent, else you shall die, for the anointing oil of the Lord is upon you." So they did as Moses told them. The Lord said to Aaron,
"When you are to go to the meeting tent, you and your sons are forbidden under pain of death by a perpetual ordinance throughout your generations to drink any wine strong drink. You must be able to distinguish between what is sacred and what is profane, between what is clean and what is unclean. You must teach the Israelites all the laws that the Lord has given them through Moses.
Moses said to Aaron and his surviving sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, "Take the cereal offering left over from the oblations of the Lord, and eat it beside the altar in the form of unleavened cakes. Since it is most sacred, you must eat it in a sacred place. This is your due from the oblations of the Lord. And that of your sons, such is the command I have received. With your sons and daughters, you shall also eat the breast of the wave offering and the leg of the raised offering in a clean place. For these have been assigned to you and your children as your due from the peace offerings of the Israelites. The leg of the raised offering and the breast of the wave offering shall first be brought in with oblations, the fatty portions that are to be waved as a wave offering before the Lord. Then they shall belong to you and your children by a perpetual ordinance, as the Lord has commanded." When Moses inquired about the goat of the sin offering, he discovered that it had all been burned. So he was angry with the surviving sons of Aaron, Eleazar and Ithamar, and said, "Why did you not eat the sin offering in the sacred place, since it is most sacred? It has been given to you that you might bear the guilt of the community and make atonement for them before the Lord. If its blood was not brought into the inmost part of the sanctuary, you should certainly have eaten the offering in the sanctuary, in keeping with the command I have received." Aaron answered Moses, "Even though they presented their sin offering and holocaust before the Lord today, yet this misfortune has befallen me. Had I then eaten of the sin offering today, would it have been pleasing to the Lord?" On hearing this, Moses was satisfied.